Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the Soul of Excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
CNN is learning that Alex Preddy had a physical encounter with federal agents about a week before he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Sources tell CNN that Preddy broke a rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting. Priscilla Alvarez is breaking that story for us. What else are you hearing, Priscilla?
Dana, we're learning more details along with my colleague Jeff Winter about what exactly transpired a week before Alex Preddy was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Now, in this earlier incident, he stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle. Preddy later told one of these sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to leave him with a broken rib. According to this source, and I'm quoting here, that source said, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. Now, Preddy was later given medication that is consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. Sources also say that he was known to federal law enforcement, though it's unclear whether it was this incident or another with federal agents that they knew of him. It's also unclear whether the officers who tackled him on Saturday knew who he was. What we do know, however, is that federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information of protesters and agitators within the context of what the Department of Homeland Security has warned is repeated threats towards officers as they are conducting immigration enforcement operations. In fact, just Tuesday, the department also publicized an online tip.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. That report coming earlier from CNN, Dana Bash, and others, the person that was killed, Alex Preddy, had a history of interfering with law enforcement operations. I don't know what that means to you, but I know what it means to me. And I'm not saying, of course, it means that he should have been killed, but it means that this idea that he's just a nurse and he was just out there being good, he was actively involved in trying to disrupt ICE from doing their job. Tom Homan has promised that we have that later on. They're going to start collecting a database of some of these people. Donald Trump was on one of the greatest morning shows in America. Probably the most successful morning show in America is a show that airs in New York in the mornings. New York, the greater New York area. It is Sid and Friends. Sid is an amazing broadcaster. It is inside radio stuff for just a moment, folks. It is so difficult with all of the competing media that is out there. Gone are the days when people tune into just 2 or 3 things. We're in a different media landscape. People have personal choice of what they will listen to, what they view, and those choices have multiplied by the thousands. In fact, the other night, a friend of mine sent me, my chiropractor, who's just an amazing guy, he asked me while he was adjusting my creaking and aging bones, have you ever seen this show called Dust? I'm like, no. Where is it streamed? What network? It's not. It's a YouTube thing. And what they are is short films, short movies. And it was a sci-fi one. It was very, very good. It made me want to look. But there are so many different choices in media. And so for somebody to be able to do what Sid Rosenberg has done, Sid and Friends in the morning, which is to have, it's almost like the old days of radio. His audience is huge. And that's because he is such an amazing broadcaster. And he's a wonderful man too. He's just a wonderful human being, and he's a great guy, but he's just such a great broadcaster. Red Apple Audio Networks, and he is on the flagship station, WABC in New York, and has really just taken the New York market by storm. He had Donald Trump on this morning, President Trump on, with Sid and Friends, and cut one, and this is part of the discussion on Sid and Friends this morning with President Donald J. Trump.
But I had two very good talks. I had Jacob Fry and I had Governor Walz, and I mean, they were great calls. So let's see how they report it. But they were very nice calls, very respectful.
So is there a possibility, President Trump, of some type of compromise? I read that some of the Guard will be leaving the state of Minnesota, some type of compromise to, I guess, make those guys feel like they're in charge, even though, God help us.
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think so. What we need is their criminals. You know, they have criminals, and all I said, just give us your criminals. And if you give us the criminals, it all goes away. They're there to pick up murders. I don't know if you saw, but it was a couple of days ago announced that crime is the lowest in the history of our country, the recorded history of our country.
Wow.
That's a big statement. That's because of us. That's because we go into cities and towns. Usually we're embraced. Sometimes we're not. Chicago is like pulling teeth with Pritzker and with the mayor of Chicago, low IQ person. And usually we're embraced, but sometimes we're not. And when we're not, it just makes it harder.
Yes, and that is correct. We talked about that the other day. The murder rates in America are at the lowest rate they have been since 1900, 125 years. And that happened in the 1 year that Donald Trump took office, that it has dropped to that historic low, and I have a feeling it will drop even further. Many of us are old enough to remember, and the young people not so much, when murder... Sid and Friends in the morning. Yes, I thought I said that. Sid and Friends in the morning. Anyway, yes. That is the name of the show, Sid and Friends in the Morning with Sid Rosenberg. Murder is at the lowest rate it has been in 125 years. Many of us are old enough to remember that murder was a big deal. In fact, I will always remember Rush talking about something that, and you can see from, if you go back and you look at old movies, how it was treated. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And this was all over the world in terms of news because it didn't happen on a regular basis. Mass shootings, mass murder did not happen. And so when you had this massacre, and they were gangsters killing other gangsters, but even then it was a big deal. This was not the way that life was. Life was not, and I'm not saying there wasn't crime. Of course there was crime. There has always been crime. But those murders, the way that we see murders are just casual. Mass shootings. We don't even hear of the mass shootings that happen every day because there are so many of them. Not to mention the people that are, walking the streets. There's a case in Florida last week, triple homicide. The guy was declared insane. So what did they do? The Soros-appointed DA there let him out. This is in the Orlando area. Soros-appointed prosecutor let him out. They let him out. You just go take your meds, go take your medicine, and we'll let you out. He gets out, doesn't take the meds, kills 3 people. And now they're talking about adjusting the law. These things were not normal. It is not normal to have a society that is this violent. Also, one must add, in this country, there was a lot more emphasis, dare I say it, but it is true, there was a lot more emphasis on living morally. Churches, synagogues, whatever the mosque, whatever your religions were, there were so many more people engaged in a religious life. Moral teachings were not uncommon. This anything goes in society wasn't the order of the day. And so now we're slowly coming back to a point where perhaps the pendulum is turning. And part of it is due to what's happening now, enforcing the law. And Democrats are dead set against it. Now, on the interview with Sid and Friends in the morning, Mondami was also discussed. And the New York Daily News has a huge story about that. And by the way, you can see all over social media. Trump again gushes over Mayor Mondami despite criticisms over ICE. Minneapolis. And I'm saying that as Gavin Newsom. Minneapolis. And here was that segment.
Would have talked to him, tried to get them to not do that if I were the mayor of New York. That's a big deal. That's not a positive thing for New York.
So is it fair to say then, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, you're the president, the greatest president ever, but the jury's still out. You say nice things, but if New York doesn't get better, if there's an issue with the Jewish people, you mentioned the stock exchange, is it fair to say the jury is still out when it comes to Trump and the mayor?
Well, it is. I mean, I think he's got a really good personality. I think he's got, tremendous assets, but he's got some things. Forget about what he says about me. I don't really care about that. It's policy. It's, concepts that really haven't worked over the last 10,000 years, to be honest with you. They haven't worked. Yeah. And maybe you can get them to work, but a lot of people think that can't happen. So got to be very careful. When people leave, when you have a stock exchange opening up in Texas, when things like that happen, makes your job really makes your job a lot harder. I'd love to see him be successful, because if he's successful, that means that's a good thing for New York. So I would love to see him be successful. And those policies, the ones that I'm hearing about, typically haven't worked. Not typically; they've never worked anywhere ever.
Never.
So
yeah.
Yeah, and so supposedly he's gushing because he says he's got a really good personality. He's got tremendous assets, but his policies don't work. Anyway, that was Sid and Friends in the morning with President Donald Trump. Now, Walsh, and we'll get to that, was interviewed out in the Midwest. And by the way, there's been another shooting at the border. We don't know the details on it. There was some sort of shooting that took place with Border Patrol. We're still waiting for the details to come in on that. Nothing would surprise me the way that the left is inflamed, and you hear people every day now calling. In fact, there's a nurse, and where she's in Virginia. Shocking, a nurse that has suggested, she's under investigation, by the way, suggested that people in the medical community start filling up syringes with paralytics and going out and using them as weapons against ICE. Yes, a nurse in Virginia under investigation. That's under investigation currently. Got another headline here. Woman charged with torching GOP headquarters in Texas. A 21-year-old, suspicion of arson and burglary, tried to burn down the Republican Center. Yeah, the left is increasingly getting violent. And we live in just a strange society where these things are just, again, we go back to the Satanic Award that is proudly displayed in the capital of Minnesota. They gave Tim Walz an award for helping helping the spread of Satanism in the state. We reported that yesterday, had the soundbite from a representative from there who was walking through the Capitol, looking and reading to us from the Satanic Award that is now sits in the State House in Minnesota. Thank you, Tim Walz, for helping us spread the word of Satanism. Unbelievable. James Golden, Snerdley. Whatever you do, keep it right here. Don't go away.
Rush. This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a brief, please pay attention, and thank you for your attention in advance to this matter. A brief word from a woman who's running for Senate, United States Senate. She is currently the governor of the state of Massachusetts. Her name, Maura Healey.
It is just an example of how out of control ICE is. It's why I call on Kristi Noem to resign. It's why I call on ICE to get out of these cities and these states. Donald Trump needs to rein this in and take this back. We have people who are clearly untrained, who work for ICE now.
And if that's not enough, let's go out to the city of Minneapolis, as Mr. Newsom says, with their city council member, Robin Wansley.
We want the 2,000 plus agents that are still here today occupying our communities and putting them at harm's risk for being abducted or even shot and killed. We want them out. We don't want swapsies. So until that demand is fulfilled, there is simply not a satisfying moment in this change.
Yeah. Now the new derogatory SWATsies. Kristi Noem is not resigning, and she's not being fired. And ICE is not leaving. Too bad.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
Won't you at least consider unilaterally freezing deportations for the parents of deferred action kids?
Yeah. Here's the problem that I have, Jose, and I've said this consistently. My job in the executive branch is supposed to be to carry out the laws that are passed. Congress has said, here's the law when it comes to those who are undocumented, and they allocate a whole bunch of money for enforcement. And what I have been able to do is to make a legal argument that I think is absolutely right, which is that given the resources we have, we can't do everything that Congress has asked us to do. What we can do is then carve out the DREAM Act folks, saying young people who have basically grown up here are Americans that we should welcome. We're not going to have them operate under a cloud, under a shadow. But if we start broadening that, then essentially I would be ignoring the law in a way that I think would be very difficult to defend legally. So that's not an option. And I do get a little worried that advocates of immigration reform start losing heart and immediately thinking, well, somehow there's an out here. If Congress doesn't act, we'll just have the president sign something and that'll take care of it, and we won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that was Lord Obama basically explaining to people that he had to enforce the laws when it comes to immigration. He deported 5 million people. There were no protests in the street. James Golden Snerdley, while we're doing memories of the day, today I remember as a child, a young child, and it was the first time that something happened in the news that shook me to my core as a child. And for many people, maybe this is just another note in history. For me, it was traumatic. On this day in the Apollo astronaut, Apollo 1, had a fire. And we lost 3 astronauts. Gus Grissom, Virgil, I would still call him Gus Grissom because that's how Edward White and Roger Chaffee. They were burned inside, killed by fire inside their capsule, a flash fire. And it was, when that came over the news, I remember as a child just being almost, I guess you would call it today, traumatized, although that doesn't seem the appropriate word for it. I was shaken. I guess it was then that I realized that the astronaut program, which I had followed ever since we sat and watched these, as John Glenn orbited the Earth 3 times in the Mercury space capsules. We watched all of these things that were happening. And this was the first time that tragedy struck in a big way. And it was upsetting. And for years and years and years, every time January 27th rolls around, ever since I was a kid, I always thought about this day. And it was upsetting then, and I imagine for some people that were young, the Challenger would be that discovery. It was just, and so I wanted just to remember that today. Today is also a day that should have changed the understanding of humanity in ways that it hasn't, sadly. Today is the day that Auschwitz was liberated. It was not the Americans who liberated Auschwitz. It was the Soviet Red Army. They freed survivors of Auschwitz, and that is when the world discovered what the Nazis had been doing. Now, there are 3 camps that are most widely known when people talk about the Nazis: Dachau, Auschwitz, and the 2 most famous, Birkenau. These, when I hear people calling law enforcement agencies like ICE and like Border Patrol Nazis, it is so deeply offensive to not only the memory of those that were slaughtered, and we're talking about millions of people. We're not talking about hundreds of people. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of people. We are talking about millions of people. And there were at least 40 other satellite camps from Auschwitz. Birkenau, of course, I just mentioned. Dachau. You had people like Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, there doing these horrible experiments on children. You had this mass slaughter of people who were consigned to death simply because they were Jewish, because their faith was different than other people's faith. And, of course, they were demonized by the awful Nazi regime. When you hear Americans, whether it's politicians, and there are some in the Democrat Party today who are trying to compare law enforcement that are basically trying to just implement and serve America with honest law enforcement being compared to what happened there, it is a horrendous shame. It is more than that. It is, to me, a violation of something very sacred. And that's understanding that the evil that was perpetuated by the Nazis in World War II was unlike any other evil that we saw in the history of the world. And hopefully we will never see that evil again. And it took the combined effort of the United States of America and our allies to shut the door on that kind of Nazism. And yet the ancestors of the people who served in those theaters, and there were over 70 theaters of war in World War II, it was a massive effort to shut down this evil that had infected the world. And yet today you have people who make light of it, who either don't understand the threat posed to the humanity of the entire world, and they're using this to try to gain political points in ways that are not only unbecoming, but just minimize what took place in the world during that period of time. And it is disgraceful. And the world should never forget what happened there, just like they should never forget the other atrocities of the world, the atrocities of the disease of slavery, and that Holocaust that involved hundreds of millions of people over the course of centuries. Just like what happened with some of these other theaters of mass suicide. We talk about the Nazis. People don't talk enough about the communists and what they did under Stalin. The millions that died. And there were millions of people starved to death by Stalin and the evil of communism. Then you go to China, and there was another theater where millions were killed. Millions. The 20th century has to go down in history as a century of greatness, but a century of the most evil that has infected the human spirit since creation, our knowledge of creation. We are talking about millions of people upon millions killed by forces of evil, Nazis and communists. So many sound bites, so little time, because I've been pontificating here. One of the things that I want to do, no, Kristi Noem's not leaving. We have sound bites with that. We have Caroline Levitt asked about Greg Bovino, cut 3. This is Caroline Levitt earlier today.
Mr. Bovino is a wonderful man, and he's a great professional. He is going to very much continue to lead Customs and Border Patrol throughout and across the country. Mr. Homan will be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis.
And to follow up, given...
Now, I don't have time to play the full thing because it is a 7-minute cut. We never record 7-minute cuts. I'm going to play some of it, and maybe if we have time on the weekend, on Saturday, we'll play it. In Chicago, there is a teacher a social media post. She didn't say anybody should be killed, not advocating that. She supported ICE. And it has caused an uproar. The mayor of West Chicago is a guy by the name of Daniel Bovee. And listen to that. We can't get to all of it. We're going to play as much of it as we can. Listen to this. A teacher dared to support legal law enforcement in the United States. And this is what's happening in West Chicago.
Many of you know that this week there was an incident where an employee at one of our schools in District 33 made a social media post cheering on the activities of ICE. And it was extremely hurtful and offensive to many people in our community. And let me just, first of all, explain why that is so hurtful and offensive. Because some people have asked, don't teachers have First Amendment rights? Can't they have political opinions? And yes, of course they can. Teachers can have political opinions. They can express their political opinions in appropriate ways. What makes this different is this.
In certain cases.
This school district, the school where this happened, we have multiple students who have lost their mom or dad in the last few months in these ICE raids. We have students who go home fearful every night, wondering if their mom or dad is going to be there. We have kids having panic attacks at school. Our kids watch the news. They see people who are shot and killed, people who are punched or kicked, and tear gas is sprayed. And this is the reality that they're living in right now. And so then they're wondering, is this what's happening to my parent who's been taken away? It's extremely traumatic for these kids. And so to have a teacher who is a person that they trust, who is the one who takes care of them when they can't be with their mom or dad, to have that person cavalierly cheer on these events as if it's a football game and say, "Go Ice," is extremely hurtful and extremely offensive. And it's wrong.
It's wrong?
We are a community, and the person at the center of these events is part of that community. I've known this person for quite some time and consider them a friend. I talked to this person in the last day, and this person seems to understand that they did something that was wrong.
No.
And as I said to this person, this is not, it's not right what you did. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the end is going to be, but it doesn't need to define you as a person. And I believe that. I believe that we should give people second chances whenever we can.
Second chance.
At the same time, actions have consequences. The point is that there are processes and there's due process in place. And many of us have been bothered how ICE has disregarded due process. Many of us have been bothered of how
you're
ICE
sharing
has
your political
dehumanized
views. Outrageous.
So let's not turn and do the same thing. Let's not dehumanize this person by our comments, and let's not short circuit the due process, which is merited.
All right, so here's a long story. I'll get to more of this on the week. They're taking this teacher to task and sending this teacher through health and just saying, "Go ICE." As if cheering on law enforcement, she did something wrong. Why? Because we have children in the school system. And by the way, I have sympathy for children who are fearful, who are traumatized, that their parents are here illegally and were busted. And so there is a consequence for breaking the law. I don't see these same kind of reactions when you have children in your community whose parents are criminals and they're put in jail. Do you stop teachers from saying, "Go sheriff's department, go law enforcement, keep enforcing the laws"? But no, she understands that what she did was wrong. Kiss my ass. That is, just please with this business. Oops, I said that. I'm sorry. Let me withdraw that kiss my remark. These people are so obnoxious and so self-righteous. What has happened that we now live in a society where you can't support law enforcement openly because somebody's feelings will be hurt? It's ridiculous. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media continues. Don't go away.
Rush. This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush. Now here's James Golden.
Boy, I'm taking some heat on this last one. about that story with the teacher. She said it on social media. We're going to have to pick this up because I'm getting so much heat from this, from some sort. How about the kids who are slammed because their parents are in ICE and they see their parents being called Nazis and Swatsies and all kind of horrible things? What about those children? People have a right to say their opinion. Hey, we got to... Man, oh man. Gene McFadden passed away on this day. McFadden and Whitehead. This single sold more than 8 million copies in 1979. He passed away in 2006 on this day. More of the Philadelphia music sound. We have to go, folks. Yeah, you can disrespect law enforcement all you want, but don't dare say anything about illegal. We got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
It's the perfect time to replace that beast in your basement, your old inefficient boiler with a highly efficient Peerless boiler. Peerless boilers, they're a perfect match for homes, apartments, commercial buildings, you name it. Get the heat and hot water you need efficiently and save big on your energy bill all year long. Learn more about the entire Peerless Boilers family of products and to find a local installer near you, visit peerlessboilers.com. And remember, my guy Pete Morgan, Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers, peerlessboilers.com.